Welcome back to the Nafisa Dango Show. And of course, we're enticing you this afternoon in many directions. And I think one of the most important things we're starting to lose control of is, of course, reading avidly. We find that, taking a book in our hand is something that we haven't been doing so often. And I think we need to find the time for it because there's such inspirational things happening out there. And one of them is this book launch that's going to be taking place, of course, this coming Saturday, the 7th of November. And it's about a book that has been written. And let me tell you about the book. It's an anthology that shares the stories of 18 authors as they reveal themselves behind the mask, and it's stories of lockdown. Each one has a phenomenal story to tell. And this afternoon, we're going to be showcasing 3 of the authors out of the 18, and they're going to be giving us their story and their take, of course, on what preempted them to be able to write the story that's going to entice us in many directions. And of course, we knew lockdown was a very difficult period of time for loads of people. So, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all you lovely ladies out there. Now, let me explain to you who I have on the line. I have Sister Nusayba, Sister Hava Patel, and of course, Sister Anisa Sayed. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's so phenomenal to see wonderful people like you doing such inspirational things out there. And firstly, we wanted to commend you on writing these stories, but we're going to go one by one through all of this to be able to get full benefit and essence out of everything that you've written. Okay, so Sister Anisa Sayed, we're going to start with you. I know, of course, you're a mother of 4. You have a profound love for literature in both English and Afrikaans, an economic and trade degree from the Northwest University. And of course, during your time is when you met your husband, Mohsin Sayed. Your story is about Made in China with Love. Talk us through the story. What empted you to write the story?
Okay, so when I first saw the advert or the seeking for writing a story, I thought about, like everyone is in lockdown. And now you in this position, okay, especially in the Muslim community, like every girl's dream is to get married, is to find her Prince Charming. But now we're in this position of lockdown. How am I going to have my fairy tale? Because every girl wants to have her fairy tale wedding. So that's when I just started thinking about, there's stories all around us, stories wherever you look, you get inspired from people all over. So my story is basically about a girl studying towards a medicine degree. And then she wins a scholarship at her university to go towards China to further her studies. And that's where she, in the most odd places, ended up meeting her Prince Charming. She was studying towards heart surgery, and then a doctor came and stole her heart away. But then COVID broke out and she couldn't finish her studies. So now she had to go home with the disappointment of not being able to finish her degree, to her parents, that disappointment, and then also leaving behind her doctor, with the intention of, like she wants to get married, but how will her nikah be able to take place with them now being so far apart? So then the story takes a whole lot of twists, and he comes home because he's also originally from South Africa, her Dr. Prince Charming. I'm a real sucker for love stories. So then he comes home, and then they have to find a way to make it, to find their way back to each other. And then I also, in my story, explains the beauty and the essence of Islam, and how the Prophet ﷺ has made it, so easy. I think in today's time, we tend to make this beautiful sunnah of Nabi ﷺ so difficult. But it's actually so easy, it doesn't have to be difficult. Nikah is one of them. It's a sunnah that you don't have to delay. So so I think the readers of the book have to read the story to see if the 2 main characters will find their way back to each other, if their love that was made in China will actually last.
So you're really enticing us to get into that book, okay?
Yes, definitely.
for you being able to write this piece and try and inspire people, of course, not to give up on what they want. And of course, I mean, they love, they want to be with each other. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. What does that mean for you? What sort of message would you like your reader to get from your story that you've written?
Well, I would like to inspire the reader that reads my story that life is actually very easy. We just tend to make it difficult. So if you want something, and you truly put your mind to it, go after it. Go after it with every essence of yourself. Put everything inside of you, but also put your trust in your creator, because at the end of the day, he is the best of planners. So put your trust in your creator and put everything. If you want something, don't let anything hold you back in life, because you have the potential to go after anything that you want, and you have the potential to make anything. My grandfather used to always tell me that you are the engineer of your own life. You make or break things in your own life. So that's the essence of my story that I would want to give through to the reader reading it at the end of the day. Go after it, and don't let anything stop you, whether it is in studies, whether it is in love, whether it is in every aspect of life. Like, go after it and give your all in whatever you do.
And during this COVID-19 period, what was it for you? What did you find that lesson that you learned that has taught you? Because I mean, I think each one of us, and I always say COVID-19 taught us to reflect, retrospect, and reconnect. And when I say reconnect, and I know you're going to understand this because you love your Almighty, and I've read that about you, is to reconnect with the Almighty. Because I think every single day in our lives, we run this horrible rat race. And that's it. And we don't have time to actually do all of those things, as I said. Hava Patel, I need to, of course, say thank you to you and Nusaiba also for coming on. I just want to talk a little bit about you. Was the amount of accolades and things that you do. I'd like to ask you, and we were talking earlier about time management, is I don't know how you do all of this. She's a mother of 4, has grandchildren, currently the deputy principal of Roshni Islamic School, the chairperson of Val Muslim Women's Forum, chairperson of South African National Muslim Women's Forum, the coordinator as well, member of Roshni Book Club, and it goes on and on and on. And I think you need to get on there and read Sister Hava's profile, because there's way too much going on there. Sister Hava, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And I just wanted to know what edged you on to actually write your story, because your story is about 3 women, of course, fighting one virus, and as they cross each other's paths. What is the idea of this? Did this really happen, or is it something that you wanted to bring to the fore in the form of a message?
In reality, these things, or the 3 women and part of the stories, are in reality or were happening at that time. And Nafisa, firstly, Jazakallah and Assalamu alaikum to everybody. And thank you for
thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, Jazakallah. It was a time where people spoke about having extra time. And it was time to introspect and make shukr for what we had. And we took a lot for granted. And it was time to do extra things that we couldn't do, touch base with love and etc. with the extended people. However, with an educator, or educators could relate, there wasn't time for us, because we suddenly had to move from a shift from traditional teaching to online teaching. And that meant a lot of preparation, planning from home. So it was not like we went home and teaching online. It took a lot of time. But in that time, as being part of the Val Muslim Women's Forum, and I was co-opted on the Roshni steering committee for the COVID team. We were called out often to assist in ghusl, in cases where there was need for help, whether it was emotional, physical violence, and most of where lots of people lost their jobs, not only in Roshni, in the Val area and beyond. So in that time that I used to spend at home with my kids, it was comfort zone where the kids would get up, get ready for school. My sons and daughters would come over for the weekend. We used to spend the time. Lockdown was good, playing board games and having Tarawih together. It was so lovely. But the times that I had to go out and to reach out, and at that time, many of our Women's Forum groups their menfolk or their doctors advise them not to go out because of their situation, their comorbidities. And so it was just a handful of us who had to reach out. And I thank Allah for giving me the opportunity because I could go out and make shukr for what I have. And I kept on coming home, families and friends, that yes, just that to have milk and bread on your table at that time, you had to just, and health, you had to say shukr Allah. Sickness comes from Allah, and Allah elevates a person's status in Jannah. You have sickness, but to not have that bread and milk, or be the breadwinner and fear that you've lost your job, we had to like deal with people about meeting the rent, and where would they move out with their family, where would they provide their food for the end of the day, paying school fees, and that was the last thing on their mind. It was an instant need. And people who weren't zakat cases, who didn't want to take, but they were scared, women, men, single women, they were children who were going, so I incorporated certain of the stories into this story of mine, that I wanted people to realize, those especially who thought, alhamdulillah, we were safe at home, we didn't go out, we took the precautions, we were following the social media and news to see what's happening. There was a bigger picture out there. There were people out there. And if you were in your comfort zone and you were not experiencing the pain of the suffering of the rest of the ummah, then you have not experienced COVID. And my story could have been long. There wasn't time to express more. Like I wanted to include about the closure of people who lost people in the COVID period, where like in a normal circumstances, if you gave ghusl to the person, you bring the maid home, family will read, or family, some fine wife will come and comfort each other, and then there is closure. It was a very hard time for many families that it couldn't add that part, like I say, time and submission for exams, assessments at school, and planning. And didn't allow me, but the little that I was able to put down, I hope that people will understand that there was so much, and if you didn't have to experience part of what I just touched on, and I thank the co-editors Rashida and Jan for giving this opportunity, because I just want people out there to know that if you didn't have to experience that, where you knew your husband was coming home, you didn't have to worry about where your next meal was, you were enjoying baking, cooking for the family, then you should still make shukr to Allah Ta'ala for that period, and not ask you to be tested more in the future as well, inshallah.
Yeah, that is so true. Nusayba, your story is also phenomenal. And I wanted to, of course, tell our listeners a little bit about you. You're a married woman to a helpful, techie DIY guy, had 2 precious daughters. Nusayba, of course, there's something about you that I found very interesting. You're an extrovert that enjoys all the beauty of nature. Like the rainbows, the unicorns, sunsets, and bright colors. You remind me of my guest yesterday. She was as phenomenal, always wanting to look at the little joys in life and making it inspire you to want to do things better. Her passion is, of course, to make people feel good. And her story is about a young woman who was anxious and depressed and was able to break free from her painful past and found true beauty in her life during lockdown. Talk to us a little bit about your story.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So basically in my story, it speaks about a young woman named Ilham, and she is really going through a rough time. She's living inside her head, and she's quite anxious. She's quite depressed. She has a whole host of different issues that are affecting her and troubling her. And so I tried to encompass all the different issues that people are facing all around the world. I try to make it relatable. And she's going through this hard time, and she's having issues in her marriage. And for her, lockdown was a time of deep reflection and retrospection. And where she was able to, it doesn't outright say so, but she was basically like what Hawa said, where they were like, you had all of these things during lockdown, all of these gifts and beauties, you really were so blessed and had so much to make shukr for and to be thankful for. So I think with the lockdown, it caused her, Ilham, to slow down and to really see what was happening around her, to see the beauty in her life, irrespective of the difficulty, and to really turn to Allah and, to really have hope in the Almighty and to see the beauty within herself, which I feel that so many people are unable to do. We have so many amazing women around us, men as well, of course. And everyone has so much of beauty. I'm very passionate about that. Everyone has so much of beauty and goodness within them. And we need to look closely. Even if a person seems like a difficult person or a troubled person, they do have beauty in them. They have wonderful things about them. And so in the end of the story, that's what happens with Ilham, is that she's able to acknowledge that she has good things about herself, and they are amazing things about herself, and that she can shine and she can achieve great things and she can do great things. And she can step away from this pain and choose happiness for herself.
So it's enticing people to be able to overcome their challenges. That's what it really is. And I think each one of you has a phenomenal story that is teaching us that, to say that there are challenges out there, but at the same time, if we all come together and create the support structure for each other, then we can, of course, create milestones of happiness right throughout. And I think that's what we need to learn, is to be able to learn to be together with each other as opposed to being individuals. And I say when we have that time, it's to be able to pull together and create the support structure. And I don't know what your take on it is, Hava.
How are you on mute?
Hava, we can't hear you. Okay. There you
go. Okay. Right. So I agree with you that we cannot work in isolation. And happiness only comes when you work together, where you share together, and when you are with people who are less fortunate than you or more, still make shukr to Almighty Allah, and that's where you find your contentment. And yes, COVID has taught us that we need each other. We cannot be in isolation, because through this we needed guidance, assistance from people who went through, experienced the difficulty of this getting the virus, and like you say, that we need to work together, empower each other, and help us through this journey of life.
And Anisa, like you were saying, it's about not giving up. It's being able to, of course, foresee that these challenges are there. Each one of us has it, but it's to be able to persevere and tell yourself that you can turn this around for the better. And I think your story has taught us something like that. So what is your take on that? Anisa, are you on? Can you hear us? You seem to be on mute. Can you check your phone again? Okay, there we go. Now we can.
Sorry. Yes. Can you just repeat the question? Because my internet had
not a problem. It seems to be a very windy day today. So what I was saying earlier is, like, so I just spoke to Sister Hava, about challenges. And I'm saying, like, your story talks to us in a different manner, but it also reflects on the word challenge, that irrespective of what we face, we can overcome it through the types of perseverances and positivities that we have and the support structures that we create for each other.
Yes, of course. At the end of the day, it's all about your mindset and how you look at a problem. Sometimes you will find yourself amidst in this problem, and you will feel so overwhelmed. And in reality, I think that's what COVID taught us. Sometimes just stand still, take a step back, and look at all of the pieces of the puzzle, and then you will find, okay, this challenge isn't actually so bad. Let me just take a few seconds, breathe, and take it on from there. And at the end of the day, the pieces of the puzzle will come together as they have to, irrespective with your efforts that you put in, irrespective of how you may perceive it. You might think, okay, it's such a big thing, but if you just take a step back and you just take a moment to breathe. And I think that's what COVID did to the world as well. It slowed everything down, and it gave the world not only people but nature as well. It gave everything a pause, a breather, to just heal, and say, okay, I'm going to take a step back, and then we'll take it from there.
Well, Seba, what I loved reading about you is that you said you love to make people feel good. And I think this positivity needs to start getting viral and contagious amongst us, because it's important to be able to edge each other on for the better, and to help each other overcome those challenges, as I was saying, easier. So what does it mean for you? Because I think this is phenomenal when all three wonderful ladies like you would like to go out there and give a piece of yourself in many directions. It does mean a lot, because of course you're uplifting and you're empowering.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, Nafisa. And that's something that I hold very, very dear to my heart. Whoever I meet, I want to make a difference to them. I want to inspire and motivate them in some way. I've been so inspired by so many different people, so motivated by so many different people in my life. and their experiences. And it really has always been a dream for me. And I think that's why I wrote the story. I said through the story, I hope to motivate people, to inspire people. My message is one of hope. And I hope that people are able to see that message of absolute hope, that there is Allah is there. Allah will always be there for us. And a situation can change. You know what? If we believe that it can change, if we believe in Allah and we have really a lot of faith in the Almighty, that belief that we have that things can change, things can get better, it will become your reality. The thoughts are so powerful. That's something I've been reading a lot recently and studying, is that our thoughts are absolutely powerful. If we think in our minds and we believe in our minds that we can do something, we can get past something, we can make our lives better, things can improve, it will happen. We have to have that faith, obviously turn to Allah and ask Him for help, and really believe in ourselves and our ability to change our situation, and not feel like we need to be sort of a bystander and a viewer, like sort of in our lives. We need to be an active participant in our own lives, and that's the message that I really want to get out there. And what inspired me to actually, to write the story is the fact that I think the issue of gender-based violence became a really big thing during COVID. It was always a big problem. It was always there, but it became much more, It became much more exposed during the lockdown, and the problem worsened during lockdown, and that was something very close to my heart. And I think in the story I drew from a few close people in my life who've been through difficulties, and I actually made my story very, although it's a fictional story, I made it very real and raw. Alhamdulillah, I have a gift of being able to have a lot of empathy for people. So I used that gift in the story. And I wanted people to really feel what the character was feeling, not just I read a story about gender-based violence and so sad, shame, and carry on with life. I wanted it to ignite the senses, to really make the person feel like they're in Ilham's situation, to feel her pain, to relate to that pain, and to really have that empathy, to really feel like, what am I going to do about this? I feel sorry for her. I feel sorry for people like this, not just from a point of sympathy, but from a point of deep reflection of, what can I do about this? How can I change this? How can I make a difference around me? And that for me is, also the motive for my writing, is to really make people think deeply about things, not just look at things from a shallow perspective. Look at things from a very deep perspective. There's more there's more that meets the eye, and really let people know that we believe in them. Like around us, we should let the people in our lives know who are going through difficulty, that we are there for them. We believe in them. They can get through this. So I think
it's so apt, because at the end of the day, it sheds light on many matters that people experience, and it's not just from the GBV point of view. It's also enticing people to understand that irrespective of what they go through, there are support structures out there, there is help out there, and there is positivity out there, and we need to start, of course, keeping that hope. But it's so phenomenal to see all three of you actually being part of a book, and for me, I think it's imperative to bring this to the fore, that this anthology is so amazing. It has 18 authors in there, but each one has served a purpose, should we say, in this book as such. What does it mean for you being part of this? Because the thing is, once you pick up a book, I think the amount of people that you can reach out to is so much more further and broad, and compared to what you would be able to do with just chatting to me today alone. I mean, this has brought a broad spectrum of people in to be able to listen to your story. That's so phenomenal. But at the end of the day, also to be able to know that you've got this book in your hand, and this book is going to go to many people that you're going to inspire to, of course, change their lives for the better. So let's go one at a time. I'll start with Anisa.
Jazakallah, Sister Nafisa. In the beginning of your show, you mentioned, in today's time, like we don't actually have time for reading. So I think with the whole anthology, bringing 18 authors together in one platform, to give them each a voice of inspiration and motivation to the reader. I think that's the essence of this book, is even if you can just make a difference in one person's life, and you can inspire and motivate one person through your story, I think that is rewarding in itself, because that person will take the inspiration that they drew from your story and maybe inspire someone else. So I think that is what makes the anthology so amazing. Is it's not just only one story, it is a story with one essence of the corona or COVID-19 pandemic, that brought 18 authors together in one story, and these 18 authors now have a voice to inspire other people in one book. So I think that's what makes the book so exceptional, and what makes it so rewarding is you become part of a sisterhood of authors, or you become part of an author team, whose voices will inspire other people through their stories together with your story.
Right. How about your take on that? As I said, it's phenomenal. 18 authors, one book, reaching out there, inspiring people to, of course, change their lives for the better. And this is literally what the book means.
Yes, Nafisa, I'm really excited to meet all these amazing ladies on Saturday at the launch, because they have such amazing stories that they have shared, and just chatting, and we've networked through this over WhatsApp since the inception of the launch. And as the days go by, I'm excited more to meet them, because there's so much to learn from each other. There's so much to share with each other. And yes, the beauty about this book, it's the year of 2020 is a year of history that's going to be remembered for many years to come. But the stories that has to be taken down generation to generation by people who've experienced it is in this book. It is something that grandparents and great-grandparents will be able to relate and read stories from to their grandchildren, that this really happened in 2020. So that is what I find amazing about the anthology of this and the book that's going to be launched on Saturday. And I'm hoping that more people will come to the launch and get a hold of the book to understand and appreciate beyond the comfort of the home what was happening out there. Because let's face it, it wasn't only the doctors who were the frontline heroes. It was the social workers. It was the teachers. I cannot express the fear of them really coming back. So yes, it was. It's a year to remember and to see beyond the comfort of your home what was happening out there in the real world.
That's right. Nusaiba, what is your take on that? I mean, I just absolutely love the fact that there's one book with 18 authors giving me each one of them giving me such an inspirational story, and knowing that those inspirational stories are going to go far out there and inspire so many other people.
Yes, absolutely. I found it a very beautiful journey to be part of something so much bigger than just one little story in an anthology. I mean, we've become friends over the past, I think, few weeks, myself and the other writers, where, like everybody was working together to get this launch up and running. It was so beautiful, that teamwork, everybody working together and getting to know each other. And honestly, I'm so honored to be part of something like this. The other writers are absolutely amazing. I've read some of the stories. I've read Hawa's story. I loved Hawa's story. I've read Anissa's story. I absolutely loved Anissa's story as well. And just reading their stories, I was blown away. Nafisa, I was absolutely blown away. I was like, such an amazing woman. People have such talents, such great talents. And I'm so glad that these women have gotten the opportunity and the chance to showcase their talents. I was reading the different styles, the different ways of writing, the different feelings that were coming through. And I don't think that people actually appreciate and realize the power of fiction, or whoever wrote nonfiction, but I mean the stories that we wrote were fictional. And, the power of fiction, that people say, oh, it's just a story. But fiction is so powerful. It causes you to think and reflect and feel. It's like that learning through the senses. You read the story and suddenly you feel like crying. I know in Anissa's story, I was just waiting to hear what's happening. And at one point I felt all teary. And even in our story, I started tearing, in fact. So it evokes a whole lot of emotions. It's really so powerful. So to be part of something like this with so many women, it's like side by side, all the stories sort of lift each other up, as if it's lifting the actual authors up, lifting us up together, bringing us together with one cause, because I'm sure every single one of us, every single one of them wanted to inspire, wanted to give hope, wanted to encourage other writers, encourage by means of their storyline. It's absolutely beautiful, Nafisa.
I'm so blown away by this, because I always, and one of the producers and myself were having this argument the other day on one of our segments. We were talking about, do you read something on a tablet or do you take an actual book and read it? And my whole take on this was, when you pick up a book and you feel it and you read it from there, you actually penning out that journey in your mind. Your imagination is working better because you're getting the feel and the experience and the smell of that book, and you're also experiencing the journey that the author's trying to pen out for you. I think it has, I don't know, that's just my opinion on it, but I love reading books. And I think this is where we need to get people to, of course, entice them into that version of having to feel this experience by picking that book up and getting the smell and reading it, and then following this journey with every single one of you through that period.
Absolutely, Nafisa. Reading is such a wonderful thing, such a beautiful thing, and it's something we really need to encourage, especially in the youth. I think they've lost that. They with Instagram and all the different types of social media, it's easier to just scroll through a page. It's quicker. It's more convenient to read a quick story online. But you will never get that true feeling of reading a book, of, like you said, holding this book in your hands, touching it, feeling it. I think it's all about, like I said again, the senses. When you really ignite the senses, there's so much more benefit.
I tried reading the same, it didn't work. So I agree with you. However, I'm sure you would edge it on, because, coming from the education point of view, how important is it, do you think, for people to pick up books and just read?
Honestly speaking, we often discuss this at our HOD meetings, that the state of writing or essays, the language, using the short abbreviations that they're using on WhatsApp, and that it's actually filtering into their work, into their writing.
And I'm laughing I'm really laughing because there's times where I don't even understand what some of the abbreviations mean.
Join the club. Sometimes I have to ask, what did this child mean by this? Or and the thing is, it's starting at an early age. You wouldn't even think the bigger children are talking like that, but from young, the children are using abbreviations and words that sounds technologically exciting, and bringing this into their essays and into their work, and they're losing the essence of beauty and the beauty of writing, because they're not reading. They enjoy the social media, but with everyone's use their language, the new language. So what's happening is that, and also it's the lack of reading. You find that they lack the skills of conversation in company. Have you not noticed how many youth sit in company of elders, of elderly people, or even young people who they met for the first time? Like when we used to be young and go with our parents to cousins' house, and then how we used to just strike conversations. They cannot strike a conversation because they do not read. They become That's it. It is, and that's that. And I'm hoping that books like this can revive reading simple short stories where we can enforce them. Like at school for the grade 9s, I've requested to enforce the book Morning in Jenin, because they don't want to read the history of Palestine, or they just feel life is good here. They don't know you need to feel the pain and the suffering of the Muslims. So what happens is that book, it's about a story in Palestine and her life, and a life like every young girl. So when they're reading this as now part of their set book that I've requested to make it at school at grade 9 level, they see the issues of Palestine as a different version, and their love for the people of Palestine have been revoked or instilled now through this book of a girl and her story. So likewise, we continue motivating, inspiring, finding books that they can relate to and get back into reading.
Yes, definitely. And listen, I'm sure you'll agree with us. I mean, it's all about the experience and penning out that experience. I don't know about you, but when I read a book, it's like you actually see that picture in front of you.
Definitely. I see it with my own kids as well. The thing is, if you read on a tablet, or on your smartphone, there's always some kind of interruption coming through, whether it will be an email notification, whether it will be a WhatsApp message coming through. So there's always some kind of digital form that breaks your concentration, where if you pick up the book, you know, like you just get that feel of the pages. It's like you're making that personal connection with the author. And I see it especially with my children, you know, when I read storybooks to them, you know, like while I'm reading it to them, you know, like, and then they will point out, you know, small things that I don't even see on the pictures because now I'm looking at the words, but they will point out, you know, like, oh, look, here's the rabbit, and the rabbit does this, or here's the sheep goes may, you know, like, so they will point out from a young age. So that's why you know, like, as my the other guest also was saying, it's so important for us as adults, you know, like to introduce and to keep the importance of books fresh in our youth, you know, to inspire them and to motivate them, you know, like pick up a book, read, because if you think about it, from an Islamic point of view, the instructions to our Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was read, you know, like, even though he couldn't read, you know, he was illiterate himself, but that's the thing. We are so fortunate in today's time, you know, like we have all of these media, these tools to help us to, you know, like motivate our children to grow and nurture the love for books, so that they can also, out of their own, you know, like pick up a story and be transferred away to a different world, you know, to become a pirate, or you know, like to go on a treasure hunt, or be an astronaut. Now the word slipped from my mind. Go and to be an astronaut, you know, by picking up a book, and, you know, like to tell them, okay, by picking up a book and reading a story, you know, like the possibilities are infinite, and the world is at your fingertips, literally, because you're reading a book.
That's true. I didn't want to interrupt you when you were speaking, but we got a message from Shakira Rahman Saleh, and she says, you ladies are absolutely amazing. That was the message. But
Thanks, Shakira.
I think besides amazing, I think you ladies are phenomenal in each one of the way you've dealt with bringing stories to the fore that will entice other people once they read this, to be able to get out of their, should we say, negative zones, make them reflect and reconnect in many directions. And I think this is what this anthology is about. It's being able to reach to people out there and say, listen here, you're not alone. You're not the only one going through this particular issue. Each one of us has a different challenge that we face. But literally to say that firstly, you can overcome it. Secondly, you need to persevere. Thirdly, you need to be positive. And of course, fourthly, the anthology is there. So read it and get inspired.
Definitely.
Definitely. Yeah.
What message would each one of you want to leave with us today, as far as the book is concerned, and of course from your own personal point of view? Or we'll start with you, Nusayba.
So for me, it's a message that I heard at a motivational talk, that also on top of the message of hope that I wanted to sort of bring about through my story, and inspiring and motivating others to not only rely on others to help them out of their situation, but to get out of their own situation. But a very important thing is that, so a lady said in a talk that I went to, she said that, you know what's amazing is that when we're going through difficulty, we can actually write down our story and choose our happy ending. We can write our own happy ending, which goes in hand in hand with what I said earlier of, you know, if we think it and we believe it, it can become a reality, and it's definitely possible. So, you know, through writing, you know, I would like to encourage others to write as well. That, you know, I'm just somebody, you know, and just a mom, and, you know, not anybody famous or anything, not a writer or whatever, but I just, you know, I decided to go for this, took this opportunity, and I decided to write, and that others can also write. And even if they're going through difficulty, maybe not write to go in an anthology or to write a book, but they can write their story, and they can write the ending that they want for themselves. You know, how they really want things to pan out, how they really want their life to work out. They can write that in. And by writing it, the power of writing, you know, so now when you get writing and you write what you want, it's like writing down your dreams and your goals, you know, it makes it more achievable because you've written it down. Like your hand is connected to the paper, your brain is connecting with what you're writing, and it's stored. This what you wrote has become stored in your brain, and so you're like, okay, this is what I'm working toward. This is what I can achieve. So that's my message to women to see, or not just women, everyone who reads it, to see what's possible for them, no matter what situation they're in. This mindset is what's absolutely critical. By changing your mindset, you can change your life.
Right. That's so true. How about your take on it?
Okay. The message I'd like to give out there is, through what we've experienced with COVID, we must just say, life is what you make of it. You put your trust in Allah, you continue doing good. And like Umain say by saying, a good way of therapy is to write. Write, share your experiences with others, with your own, if I'm starting from home, and build on what you write. And you never know, one day what you've left behind could be a legacy for others to take heed from. But life, you can only find contentment in giving, and that's how you'll get back. And always put your trust in Allah. Depression is most of the time brought onto you by yourself. It's what you make of your life.
That is so true. And there's no better fulfillment, of course, and contentment in the word giving. On your side, Anissa Delanga, I see they're calling you Delanga, but I'm going to call you Anissa. Say it.
Yes, please. Yeah, it's quite a funny story, but that's a story for another day. With myself, I am also I'm a qualified life and fitness instructor. So I always tell the ladies that join my groups, it's one day or day one, you decide. So to also continue what Nusaiba and Napahawa said, during my journey, and I started this journey in COVID lockdown period, I started journaling my thoughts, and I started, writing down my feelings and expressing myself on paper. So the thing that I want to our listeners to tell them is, if you are going through a difficult time, write down what you're feeling. Don't ever keep what you are feeling inside, because when you're writing down, like Apahawa also said, writing is very, very therapeutic. So write down what you're feeling, and maybe you will find, oh, okay, but you know what? I actually have this hidden talent that I can write, and I can, motivate and inspire people through what I am writing. I'm bringing back to my quote that I said, you just have to make that decision and decide, day one or one day. At the end of the day, it all breaks down to you, and connecting my thoughts to what Nusaiba was saying. Your thoughts are powerful, so you just have to decide, and you just have to take that stand, and to say, okay, I'm going to write down what I'm feeling, and I'm going to work towards these goals, and I am going to make my life better. And so that's basically what I would like to say, through my story.
Right. I want to say something. I think it was a very inspirational afternoon for me. Of course, getting in touch with all three of you. Each one of you is phenomenal, inspirational, definitely uplifting in many directions. We want to wish you nothing but the best for Saturday, of course, for the book launch. I'm so looking forward to, of course, getting my hands on that anthology and reading those stories further. You've definitely enticed me in many directions and inspired me to want to get a hold of this book and start reading. So I hope all our listeners have also been enticed into that, because I think each story has its own message, and it's important for people to be able to get a hold of this book so that they can, of course, get enticed into a better perspective, shall we say. But I want to wish you all the best. If each one of you, I should say, positively directing us in a way to be able to overcome our challenges. So Jazakallah for joining me this afternoon. And I wish you nothing but the best for Saturday. And we hope everything goes your way. But of course, keep penning it out, because I think as we're going to read, we're going to want to look for more.
Inshallah.
Jazakallah so much. You're all phenomenal. Take care of yourself. From myself and the team, we wish you loads and loads of success and inspiration, not just post the launch as well.
Thank you, Nafisa. Jazakallah.
Nafisa, thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
What wonderful women. And definitely, of course, on Saturday, go to the launch. Of course, go out and, should we say, support them, because I think the book is an anthology on, of course, making us aware of things in life, allowing us to be able to overcome our challenges, enticing us to get into a better space. I'm so excited about this book. I'm starting to even lose my words. I think I'm going to look forward to trying to get my hands on one of those. But definitely a very inspirational afternoon with those ladies, authors of course, Behind the Mask. And we want to thank you this afternoon for joining myself, Nafisa Dango, on the Nafisa Dango Show. Myself and the team are really grateful that each one of you took the time out to spend with us. And we're going to be playing out with the poem, and it's called Live. So we're going to go live, and actually not live. I think I seem to have forgotten my words here because I was so live with those people. They've actually enticed me in a different manner. So our show poem for this afternoon is Live. And of course, I think it's very apt for what we just spoke about. From myself and the team, have a wonderful one. And we'll see you next week, Wednesday, of course. Same time, same place. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.